The way that I would do it, and the way that I do all the last layers of the AI or the parity free solve of the 4x4, is to take the corners and start matching them up. You can see that this matches up okay here, but if I look at the 2x2x2 movements that happen here, I still have to match it up with these guys. So that's a lot that has to get done. So right now I've got this over here. Looking here, this is mostly done here. I just have to place this guy over here. So that's going to be a yellow and orange. So it's just a question of what do I want to do. I'm going to have a yellow block and an orange center over here. So it's really anyone's guess, but what I can do is this is already moved top side over here. So I'm going to keep this here, and I'll go ahead and solve for this. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a red and green that comes through here. And here this is. I have green, red with the center over here, and that's going to provide everything I need here. The only problem with that is I'm going to kind of be stuck the only problem with that is it's going to put it in over here, but I'm going to be missing a green center. So although I like the way this looks, what I'm really going to want to get is the red and green all the way down. So what I'm looking for is to match this red and green with a green center. Since I don't have the other red here yet, I don't want it to be solved with a red center. So I'm going to want to take this green and put it in with this green center. So I'm going to RIDIRD this until this is upside down to match with this. And again, that's because I already have these two in, so I want to get this entire piece in, which is going to be red, green with a green center. I've got the red and green, I just need the green center. So RIDIRD, RIDIRD. So we like this. The only problem is this is in the way, and this is going to be forever bandaging this. So I need to separate this guy from this guy over here. The fact is I should be able to move this into here, except this is bugging us out. So we'll do RIDIRD, RIDIRD. Now what I'm able to do is I'm able to move this away from here. But I'm not going to be able to do that because I'm being bandaged by this. RIDIRD, 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 and we just bring it up. Okay, so now we're not bandaged here anymore, but we are bandaged here. So I'm going to move this up top, which is just as well because these two are matched. So now I'm free to move this, which is equivalent to moving the last layer. Don't let this fool you. This is just a corner edge. This whole thing is a corner edge. It's just been extended by plastic sheets. So I'm in more of a position to move corners around. So now I can do just that. Now what I can do is if I move this here, you can see this lines up with this nicely. But I'll need to put an orange one in. So if I were to do that, could I more easily line this up with an orange center? And that's this one over here. So why don't I try that? Let's take this and move this up here. So I'm changing my plans a little bit just because I may see something that's a little more convenient. Okay, so this still moves, and now I can take this and bang, move this in with the orange. What I'm now going to do is turn this, do RIDIRD until this is moved over here, and then I can match this in with this guy here, and hopefully solve this whole 2x2x2 block. So once again, RIDIRD, RIDIRD. Keep doing it until it's down. Now, to those that are fearing an AI muddle, don't worry, it gets easier than that. Bang. So now this is a completed 1x2x2 block. So this is freed up here, and this is freed up here. So we can keep this over here. I'm not going to move this down because I'm going to end up blocking everything, so I'm just going to keep this here. So now I have one 2x2x2 block in. So let's get another one here. Now we were working on the green and red, so we can pick up where we left off with that. This green and red is here, but it's at the wrong place. Now what I actually wanted to do is I wanted to match this green with a green center. That was one of my original intents, which happens to be over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and move this down. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Well, we're bandaged with this, so that's not going to work. R-I-D-I-R-D. So we're not quite ready to do that yet, because this is here. So why don't we work on this? So what needs to come into here? Well, what needs to come into here is a green and white. So where's the green and white? Over here. So if I can move this up here, I can maybe move this white into this center over here and just kind of move it away. So again, I'm looking for the green and white with the white center. Here's my green and white. I just need to bring this to the white center. So we have R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Okay, this moves freely, so I'm going to put this with a white center. Now understand, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one out just for a second. So I'm going to move this here, whoop, and you can see this is in the wrong place. This is in a different 2x2x2 spot. This has to come over to here in order for this to work. So let's move this down here. This has to move over here and see what happens. So R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. All right, so now this is here. So I'm going to go 1, 2. Brings this in. Now I want to move this down to here and go 1, 2 and bring it back. Or rather this down to here and then bring it back by 2, because this here, this orange and yellow, got misplaced from here, but I can just bring it back. So let's go ahead and do R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Just remember which 2x2x2 segments you have this in. Okay, now with this over here, I'm going to move this by 1, 2. In so doing, I brought this back, and I have this one here ready to go. So I've got the green and white. Now actually what we have here now, in the process of putting this in, I put this in over here. This actually represents a 1x2x2 block. Because notice it's completely isolated. There's nothing else that is attached to this. So this is isolated here, here, and here, which means this is already reduced. This represents a 1x2x2 block, just like this. Which means now I have two. I've got this one, and I've got this one. And this one is completely isolated here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it over here, just for the sake of accounting, so to speak. So I'm going to do a corner swap to swap this corner with this corner. To our U, to our UI, to R, turn it 90 degrees, to our UI, to our U, to R. Basically that was just an adjacent corner swap, and it took this 2x2x2 and put it over here. You can do it any way you want. Now it's a question of matching these guys up over here. So what needs to go with what? So these last two corners are always a challenge. Now we can take a look at what we have. What we have is this is in over here. This belongs with this guy here. So there's a couple ways that we can do this. A couple of avenues that we can take. One of which is, well, we see that this is already completed. These two, if we can move a green center into here, then we're doing okay. And here's a green center over here, so I could focus on that. The only problem is that if I move this down, it's going to be blocked by this. So I'm not going to be able to move anything in this because, you know, you can see if I hold it over here, it's going to be blocked by this. So there's not anything I'm going to be able to do to move this into the proper position as long as this is in this configuration. So I might as well focus on this guy over here. This is going to be a blue and green when it's moving down, which will coincide with this over here. So what I can do is move this out of the way over here. Now do RIDARD until this can be in a proper configuration here. So I'm basically going to take this. Now understand, these are the two that are already reduced. This over here, in order to be in the proper place with this white and green, this has to be rotated around. So I'm going to move this away, understanding that I'm destroying these two just momentarily, putting it over here, but I'm going to move them both back. And this doesn't involve any of these two. This involves it over here. So we've got R-I-D-I, R-D, R-I-D-I, R-D. Do it again. R-D, R-I-D-I, R-D. Now having done that, I can comfortably move this back like so. This puts these two in. Again, this is AI strategy, but now I've got these two over here. Once I have a corner edge pattern here, I'm going to move this to the top so that this no longer gets destroyed. So I'm going to move this to the top to protect it. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D. Now with this to the top, I can continue to move this around, and I have half of my 2x2x2 segment in. This is half of it. I need to put all the rest here. And I can see this is in, but it's not really ready for prime time yet, so to speak. So what I'm going to want to do is find the red, white, and white. And you can see this over here. So what do I want to move where? Well, this red actually doesn't belong here, because I'm going to have the red edge here, but no center. The center is buried in here, so this doesn't belong with this. So all I really need then is the red white to come over here to join this white. Well, here's the red white. What I'm going to want to do is move it to where this white is up here and can join with this white center, this white part of the edge. So let's go ahead and move this up. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D, and we just keep going until we have it up. Okay. So now with this in, I'd like to be able to move this to match this. But I'm a little bit out of luck because this is in the wrong place. It's got to be over here. So can I comfortably move this over to here without destroying what I just put in here? I'm also going to point out that this matches nicely with this over here, but we're not ready for that yet. So let's go ahead and turn this to where this white ends up here. R-D. Okay, so let's see what happens. I'm going to move this into here, so this is matched up. I'm going to match this up over here, then see if I can't keep these together and move it down here. R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D, and we'll just move this back. So this is matched up with here, with this guy over here. Now it would be nice if I can take this and once again put this green and red back to here. Now look what I did over here. I did match these guys up. So I'm going to move this top side. Now it seems a little haphazard, but things do come together pretty well with this. Just stick to your strategy and the bandaging can actually work for you rather than against you. So I've got these all in a row lined up. So I've got a 1x2x2 bar basically here. These are still okay. And now what I can do is take this and move this over to here. So this is now lined up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and move it upside down. When I do that, this red and white will line up with this red and white. So what's actually going to happen is this will come up here to come into here and be finished. And this, with the red and green, will match up with this. So all I've got to do is do R-I-D-I-R-D, R-I-D-I-R-D, move it back, and bang. You've got them all in. So this is in, this is in, this is in, and this is in. And these are all 2x2x2 bars basically. So what I have here is I now have a 2x2x2 camouflage as opposed to a 3x3x3 camouflage, which is really a 4x4x4 camouflage. So I've reduced this to a 2x2x2 puzzle. Now sometimes you end up with a situation something like this. Now with this, notice I actually have two that are in. These two collectively are 2x2x2 bar. And these two are 2x2x2 bar. So you've got these. I know it's kind of confusing because they're, here, let's actually turn this around so you can sort of visualize it, different 2x2x2 bars better. So this and this. And then you've got, now let's bring this back. And then you've got these guys where this needs to come to here and this needs to come to here. So if I turn this over here, this is in, this 2x2x2 bar is in, but I've messed up everything else. If I turn it over here, then this 2x2x2 bar is in, but I've also messed up everything else. So I just basically have to swap these two. When you get a situation like that, then what you're going to do is hold it to where the two that need to be swapped are on the right and the left. Make one turn to put this in, then make one other turn to bring it out. And just do an adjacent corner swap, which is 2R U, 2R UI, 2R. Turn the puzzle by 90 degrees. 2R, UI, 2R, U, 2R. And you'll find that all you have to do is move it one click and everything is in. So those are the two, that's the other possible scenario that can happen. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to just go ahead and put in the bottom side here. So this guy has to turn upside down, R-I-D-I-R-D. So I'm just doing 2x2x2 moves over here. And as long as I do that, I'm not going to mess up any of my reductive strategies here. So this is in. Now I just have to solve these like I would any 2x2. What I'll do is I'll put up all of my greens. It's really the green side that's going to be opposite the blue. So I'm just going to do R-I-D-I-R-D until all of my greens are up. Again, 2x2 strategies. Do the 2x2 strategy of your choice. I'm just doing RIDIRDs to move them all up. So I'm really doing an orientation of the last layer, or OLL. Turn, 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 turn. It's all beginner's method. And finally move this one up. And you'll find that once you get all the greens up, the blue side will automatically get replaced. Okay, so this is fine here. Now I'm going to find the two corner pieces that are incorrectly, which is this, and I just have to swap these two. So once again, an adjacent corner swap, 2R U, 2R UI, 2R, turn the puzzle 90 degrees, 2R UI, 2R U, 2R, turn this in, and it's done. Solved. So your camouflage cube, 3x3x3 camouflage cube is now solved. The whole key with this is do what is an AI solve or a 4x4 parity free solve. Remember, replacing 2x2x2 components. The bottom layer is fairly easy. The top layer you're going to find pretty easy too. Now what I did was in a kind of an extreme scramble. I spent a lot of time scrambling it. Your scramble might not be quite so much, and you may find that various portions come together pretty nicely. But basically what you do on the top layer is find your corner and take the corner and match it up with a center edge combination. Most of the time, your center edge combination will only be one that's in. Will only be one that that you need because they're bandaged together. So if you have any particular scenarios that are still confusing with this one, let me know and I'll bring it up as a viewer question or viewer request. But this is really the basic strategy on this puzzle, the perspectives that has. I may or may not get others of the series, but I think they're really kind of variations of the same thing. So there you have it. Thanks for watching.